Hey guys, so I was recently informed that it's coming up to prom time in the US, and I've gotten a few requests to do a prom look. This is the kind of look that I would tend to do a lot on people here in Ireland anyhow who are going to our equivalent, which would be the Debs, or like to different graduation balls and stuff like that. This would be a very kind of commonly looked for look, so that's why I decided to go for something like this. And you know, of course it'd be grand for any kind of party or birthday or anything like that, but it would be more of a like a classic, say, kind of prom look or Debs look. And the ironic thing is I actually never went to my own Debs. I think I might have mentioned that before, but I had no interest in going to any of those dances when I was in secondary school, which is high school in Ireland. I didn't go to my grads or my Debs or anything like that. But I sure enjoy doing the makeup. So there will be a full list of products on my blog. I think I mentioned everything though pretty much throughout the video. And this is a slightly more chatty video. My last few tutorials have been talkovers or voiceovers, which of course are nice and quick and you know, they're kind of just to the point, but I feel that they're a little bit impersonal. So I did want to kind of chat a little bit throughout this one so that they're not all going to be just like bam, 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 you know, there you go, there it's done. So, you know, I can get a little bit of talk in as well. So I hope that you like this, guys. Keep watching for the tutorial. I'm going to start off with this guy here. It's from Max Factor and it's the Face Finity All Day Flawless 3-in-1 foundation. The reason I'm going for this is because it's a primer, concealer and foundation in one. So it's going to cut out a couple of steps for you. And for people who are in the States, I know we can't get Max Factor there, but CoverGirl, who is a sister brand to Max Factor, does the exact same products as them. So they do one of these 3-in-1 foundations as well. So always make sure you're giving your foundation, and whatever foundation it is, always make sure you give them a good shake. I'm using a lot of ELF products, brushes in this. ELF, of course, are really inexpensive and they're easy enough to get hold of. So I'm just going to start buffing this into the skin. And this is the ELF small stipple brush. I'm not sure if I said that. And even though it's a stipple brush, I'm going to buff rather than stipple. Of course, if you have very dry skin that tends to flake, or sensitive skin that tends to flake, rather than buffing like this, just do it in downward motion so that you're not going to be raising any of those flakes and making them more obvious. Next, I'm going to use some of the Rimmel Wake Me Up concealer. This is in Classic Beige, so it's actually like the third colour up, say. Ivory would be a closer match to me, but I actually need a deep enough colour underneath my eye to counteract the dark purple, and this has like just enough kind of yellow in it to help knock that out. So I'll apply this first and I can put something a bit more brightening on it then after. Next I'm going to use another concealer. This one's a little bit brighter. This is the For Paint. It's a heavy duty under eye concealer by 17 and it's in the colour Fair. This actually is grand to use on the rest of the face as well, so I'm going to pop plenty of it just in that kind of inner triangle area and along here around the bridge and between my eyebrows as well. And onto my chin where I get quite red. And I'm just going to kind of pat that all in then with my finger. You can use a brush, but I find with this particular kind of concealer, which is a bit more creamy, a bit more emollient, the heat of your fingers tends to work really well to buff it in, or to make it sink into the skin rather. And that's why I nearly put on a bit more than I think I'll need, because your finger does tend to lift a little bit off as it goes along. So by using more you won't actually be applying that much. And I'm going to wait to set my foundation after my eyes are done, just in case there's any fallout with the shadow. But for eye primer now I'm going to use this guy from Essence. It's the I Love Stage eyeshadow base. I think I see people in America calling this Essence of Beauty, so I don't know, is it maybe marketed a little different? And it is the same product, because I've seen Tati from Glam Life Guru using it, and she like shows the same products that I get here, but she says they're Essence of Beauty. So we don't really call it Essence of Beauty here, we just call it Essence, but maybe I'm just not looking at the product close enough. Maybe it is Essence of Beauty, but as far as I know it's just Essence, so that's all it says here. But this is a great eyeshadow primer. The colour of it initially put me off because it's quite orange or apricot looking, peachy looking say. But when you blend it in it's fine, it kind of just disappears into the skin. And then for eyeshadow I'm going to be using this monster of a palette, which is the ELF Neutral Eyeshadow Palette. I showed that in my ELF haul, which I'll link to below if you want to see more about it. But it's this absolutely fabulous palette. There's like a million eyeshadows. Not quite a million eyeshadows, but there's plenty of eyeshadows available there anyhow. I think it's like 144 or something like that. So I'm just going to start off with a light colour up here for my brow highlight. I don't want to go full on white because I think that can be a little bit tacky looking. And I do like to start off with the lighter colour, as I've said before, because it means I don't have to clean my brushes in between. This is just like a real cheap QVS brush that I got in Dunnes Stores before. So it's the kind of like eyeshadow brush you'll get in a pound store or something like that, but it works perfectly. Particularly for packing it on because it's nice and tightly packed. And I'm going to bring it down a little bit further than you particularly want to because it means that the other eyeshadows will blend over it nice and smoothly. And then it's going to be more of a silver look I'm going for today, so I'm going to use this silver here, which is a slightly darker silver, and pop that onto the lid. Oh, and my rings and nail varnish are both from Primark, by the way, in case you're wondering. I always forget to mention that. The nail varnish is pretty old though. It was called So Cyan. I'm not sure if they do it anymore, but the rings are there at the moment. And then I'm going to hop into the lighter silver just above it. I'm not even sure if that makes much of a difference. And then I'm going to go into the more kind of icy white colour up here. Hopefully you can see this okay on camera. And that's going to be for my inner corner. And then around the tear duct area. So I'm just going to pop it on with this eyeshadow brush first, and then I can use a blending brush to kind of soften the edges in a minute. So next I'm just going to grab a NYX blending brush. This is a real fluffy brush, so it's good for blending. Just use that to diffuse the eyeshadow a little bit. Now I'm just going to hop into, rather than going straight on into black or anything like that, I'm actually going to go into like one of the darker, maybe to make it a little bit more interesting, I don't even know if it'll show up, but just one of the darker green colours, or one of the kind of khaki green colours here. I'm actually just kind of dipping into both. And I'm just going to pop that over the crease. So then I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that same khaki colour and apply it underneath my lower lash line. So like you could just use a grey here if you wanted, or even like a browny colour. I just didn't want to stick with like grey on grey on grey or silver on grey on grey. Okay, so next I'm going to hop into one of the darker, you know, nearly black colours. So the second black from the bottom. Pick it up and just press it in place, mainly on that outer quarter. I'm just bouncing the brush. I'm going to get some of that same colour on the tip of my blending brush. So the reason I used the eyeshadow brush first was to just really get the colour down where I want it to be most intense on the outer corner, and then the blending brush will diffuse it, you know, over the crease where I want it to be a bit softer. And next I'm going to use the tip of that kind of cheapy brush again and use that just to apply it underneath the lower lash line, closer to the lash bed though than the last colour. So I'm going to go into that bottom black. I just assume it's going to be a bit blacker. I think it is. Just bounce that over the outer corner again. Just apply a little bit into the crease without blowing it out too much. So now it's time for some liquid eyeliner, and I'm going to use my Bourjois 16-hour liquid eyeliner because I know it'll last, and apply that above my top lash lines. I want it to be thick enough, dramatic enough line. Well, getting thicker on the outer corner but still thin on the inner corner. And then I'm just going to hook the outer corner down a little bit before I bring it up into a flick. And this way I'll be able to connect it to the bottom lash line easier in a minute. And I'm roughly aiming for the end of my eyebrow. So once the liquid eyeliner is on, I'm going to get a kohl pencil. This is a Bourjois one. And use that to connect the wing to the bottom lash line. So I'm going to run it along just the roots of my lashes. I'll be putting it in on the waterline as well, so don't worry if you get it in on top of it. And then just continue on onto the lash line. So I'm going to be bringing it in right into the inner corner, pretty much on the lash line, but not necessarily for underneath the lashes. You just bring it about 3/3 of the way in. 2/3 of the way in. I'm just going to make sure to tight line as well to take away any gaps. So next I'm just going to get a little cotton bud and use that just to diffuse or blend that eyeliner underneath the eye, so it's not just like a big hard line. This will help push it up into the lash bed in case there's any gaps. I just want to blow that out a tiny bit underneath my eye, so I'm going to go into slightly more matte. I think it's more of a satin finish, maybe kind of silver. It's not shimmer anyhow. And I'm going to use this little squirt of a brush from NYX. It's a tiny little, I don't know, what would you call it, an accent brush. I'm just going to use that to blend out the black. You can also use that to help kind of fuse it in with the lighter silver on the inner corner. I'm just going to apply some mascara, and I'm going to use my Clumptify by False Lash Effect mascara by Max Factor. Again, if you're in the States, CoverGirl will have one like this, so it's whatever their Clumptify one is. And it has slight kind of curved brush like that. And I'm not going to go crazy with the mascara because, shock horror, I'm actually going to be using false lashes for this look. So I'm going to go light enough on the top lash line. I can apply more if I need to fuse them in with the lashes in a minute. But sometimes it's nice to put on a little bit beforehand because it gives kind of a bit of a foundation for the lashes to sit on. And I'm going to pop some on the lower lash line as well, or on the lower lashes. For lashes, I'm going to be using these guys here. Now, I don't exactly know what the brand is. I think they could be Ardell, but I'm not sure. They're number 48s anyhow, and they're these lovely kind of wispyish ones. If anyone recognises them, do let us know so I can pop that below. But all I have, I just have them in this. I must have thrown away all the boxes. These are lovely kind of fluttery ones. So they'll give a little bit of length, but also, you know, you will be able to notice them. They're not that thin on. And the only way that I apply lashes on myself nowadays is to actually cut the lash band in half. So I'll show you what I mean there. So get just a little scissors and cut right down the middle of the lashes. So essentially now you have like a, what would you call it, corner lashes, but you also have the rest of the lash as well. So I'm going to be putting them on in 2 sections, and I just find this is so much easier than putting it on in one go, and it means that the lashes almost like never lift. They just don't lift. So I'm going to be using my Duo lash adhesive. This is the dark tone one. It's much better to use the dark tone one if you can get it, rather than the white one, because even though the white one does dry clear, you can still kind of see it. So you generally do need to go over it with a little bit of eyeliner again afterwards, and with this one you don't really need to. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue just onto the band, and of course the trick is to make sure you let it set for about 30 seconds and then just pop them in place. So you'll find it's so much easier to have them sit down when it's just a half lash you're dealing with. And I'm just going to do the same again and pop some glue onto the rest of the lashes. If you want, you can use tweezers, because I know it can be kind of difficult, especially when you're working on your other eye, or the eye that isn't on the same side as your good hand, if that makes sense. So sometimes using tweezers can be easier to pop it in place. Not sure if you can see what I'm doing there. And at least with this way you can overlap the band a little bit, in case it's a little bit long for your eyes or for your eye shape. And then once your lashes are on and you're really confident that the glue has dried, apply a little bit more mascara. You don't need a huge amount. It's really just to fuse your own lashes in with the falsies so that there's not a big kind of gap. Right, so now it's time to finish your concealer or your face. So apply any concealer that was wiped away from fallout, or from cleaning up fallout, and anywhere else where it kind of needs to be touched up. So to set my foundation in place, I'm going to use my Catrice Prime and Fine mattifying powder. It's a waterproof powder, and if you can't get your hands on this, the Stay Matte by Rimmel is brilliant, and so is the Fit Me, Maybelline Fit Me powder as well. So they're good alternatives. And I'm just going to use my Sonia Kashuk brush, since it is still Drugstore, and just press that in place. This is the tool number 29. So before I do my eyebrows, I'm just going to brush them in place, and this will also take away any excess like powder or foundation that might be in them. Just brush them up and to the side to get the real shape. And I'm going to be using my Soap & Glory Archery Brow Tint and Precision Shaping Pencil. So I'm going to use the pencil first. So if I'm going for more of a natural look, sometimes I'll only use the brow tint. And then the actual pencil side will give me a slightly more dramatic, a bit more filled in look. And then I'm just going to use the tint side to make the edge of my brows a little bit more defined. But the pencil is almost a bit too thick. I've thinned out the edge of my brows a little bit again. Just to give myself a little bit more space on my lid, so I can't use a thick pencil on it. I'm going to pop some clear brow gel in them, or even clear mascara, or you know, anything you have, even hairspray will do, just to keep the hairs in place. And especially if you have a fringe as well, because I find the fringe can nearly move the hairs of the eyebrows sometimes, so it's good to use this underneath the fringe or bangs. To add a little bit of contour to my cheeks, I'm going to use this Rimmel Bronzing Compact Powder. This is in Sun Shimmer Light. It's actually a matte one, even though it's called the Sun Shimmer. And I'm going to use a e.l.f. brush. This is, I'll just use the e.l.f. blush brush. This is very light, so of course use whatever one suits your own skin tone. I just don't want it to be too kind of bronzer or blush heavy, or contour heavy. For blusher, I'm going to use my Physicians Formula Happy Booster Glow Mood Boosting Blush. So that's this guy here. So it's going to be kind of slightly bronzy, slightly blushery on. So it just gives enough colour without it being overwhelming. And then if you want, a good idea is to go back over it with your powder blush or brush, just to work it into the skin. And since it's quite a dramatic look, I'm also going to apply some highlighter. So I'm going to use my e.l.f. Baked Highlighter in Moonlight Pearl, which is this gorgeous guy here. And I actually love to apply this with my finger. It comes out nearly stronger than it does with a brush. So if you want it to be more subtle, use a brush. But I'm going to use my finger. So almost the same way I would a cream. Put a little bit down the centre of my nose, to my eyebrows, and onto my Cupid's bow. For lips, I'm going to use a Indefectible lip liner by L'Oreal, and this is in the colour, let's see if I can find the colour, Always Toasted 708. So as usual, I'm just going to fill in the entire lip, and then just make sure the outline is nice and crisp. For my lips, I'm going to use a Bourjois colour from their Rouge Edition range. This is number 4. There's actually is a name. It's called Rose Tweed. And that is that. So you could go ahead and apply a little bit of a lip gloss if you wanted to. I might just, actually maybe I will. I'll apply some of this Maybelline, what's it called? The Elixir Colour Sensation Blush Essence in number 95. Just a tiny bit, just to the centre of the lips. I don't like to apply too much gloss because it just means your lipstick usually won't last as long. But a little bit can be lovely. And that's that. So let's just fix the old Gruig. And that's the finished look. So I hope you like this, guys. If you do like it, don't be shy about giving it a thumbs up. That always helps. And of course, if you're new to my channel, feel free to subscribe to get more looks. And of course, there'll be a full list of products on my blog as usual, and extra pictures and all that kind of jazz. So thanks a million for watching, guys. I'll chat to you all really soon. Slán.